not really in your activities, but because of the benefits they are making, maybe that one was and in the round of it. The fixed costs I'm seeing as costs that do not change for repeated activities. The project will need to carry out say this cost is maybe this cost is not changing maybe from elements. I'm saying substance that changes over time. The amount just
Okay. Yeah, to a large extent, I want to agree. Okay. But if you also look at it from a different perspective, yeah, what we said is correct, all right? It's correct. But let's look at it this way. Okay. When we say a direct cost, we're actually saying that those are costs that are directly attributable to the work on the project. All right, just like as you mentioned, the cost for buying the computers they will use, the cost of team wages, the cost of materials that will be used for the project, the cost of traveling around because of the project. So all those costs that are associated with the project, we refer to them as what? Direct costs. All right? Is that clear, please? Then why indirect costs? Indirect costs are like overhead item or cost incurred for the benefit of more than one project. Cost incurred for the benefit of more than one project. Example, let's still look at the IT field where I'm trying to develop an application. All right. Example, the cost of having a Wi-Fi. Everybody in the office are making use of that Wi-Fi. So you can see that that Wi-Fi cost is not directly connected to the project at hand. So if we have 10 projects that we want to work on, those 10 projects benefit from that Wi-Fi. So they are more like those costs incurred for the benefit. That is why we use the word shared on the screen. All right. Like for instance, your tasks, your fringe benefits. All right, the cleaner that comes around to clean all the offices, but each offices they are having different project they are working on. All right, so that's and the janitorial services. Okay, so that is what the indirect cost. Then for the fixed cost, as we have mentioned, the fixed costs are those costs that do not change as production changes. They are fixed. All right. Even if you decide to be 200 in the building still remain. The amount you pay for rentage still remain. Oh, you now increase your staff member from 200 to 1,000. As long as it still accommodates people, that cost still remain. It is fixed. All right. Setup costs, rent costs, utility costs, they are all fixed costs. But when we now say variable costs, those are those costs that changes within the amount of production or the amount of work. Example, cost of material may change based on the amount of work. We refer to it as what? Variable cost. For example, when you are planning the project, you budgeted 10 bags of cement, for example. Then as usage, it now depends on the people using the cement. You now discover that that 10 bag is not enough. You now bought extra 4 bag. Where do you get that money for extra 4 bag from? We look at it as what? A variable cost, which is dependent on the amount of production or the amount of work or usage. All right, like supplies. All right, you supply some materials for work and you discover that during the process of usage, some were not fitted and you have to change and get more materials. So that cost, we refer to it as what? Variable cost. Now, if that is clear, what cost should you estimate? Apart from the fact that we are going to estimate the amount of work it will cost us to complete an activity, what other cost should we estimate in our project? Please, you must take note, there is what also refers to as cost of quality. So the cost of quality effort should be estimated. The cost of risk effort should be estimated. The cost of the project manager's time should be estimated. The cost of the project management activities should be estimated. And also the overhead cost that we have mentioned about, the direct cost we have mentioned about. All right, all these are other aspects of cost that we must take note of. It's very, very important. What do we want to achieve when we estimate cost? We want to have the cost estimate and the basis of estimate. The basis of estimate is how we arrive at the cost. You can still remember this. I think we explained this concept when we were talking about basis. Yeah, I think we mentioned something like that. So there's the basis of estimate. How do you arrive at that calculation? How do you arrive that 20,000 naira will be okay to complete that particular task? All right. So that is the basis of explanation, the basis of estimate. So the explanation that you give on how that estimation is achieved is what we refer to as what? The basis of estimate. Okay, so please take note. So you can also see that what are the techniques? Analogous estimation. I can use historical records. We have analogous estimation, parametric, bottom-up estimation, 3-point, cost of quality, reserve quality, and all that. You can also see expert judgment. I can call somebody that have done it before and ask, oh, Wale, how much did you spend when you did so and so activities in your project? Oh, I spent this amount. That's expert judgment. Or I use analogous estimation, pick from historical document that we have in a previous class. Okay, so pick from an historical document that we have in our previous class. All right, so that becomes what? An expert judgment. Okay, so that is very important. So that is what? Estimate cost. So we'll look at some that we have not mentioned. So estimate cost, you see that we've explained analogous estimation before. We've explained parametric. Can you still remember? Can you still remember analogous estimation? Parametric estimation? All right. And the only one we did not mention is the bottom-up estimation. All right. And the other estimation we spoke about is the 3-point estimation. But why is the bottom-up estimation different? All right. The concept of the bottom-up estimation is actually that concept where you actually estimate your cost from the activities that you have decomposed from the work package. We call it bottom up. So for instance now, let's go back to the foundation project again, the building project, and we are taking foundation as a work package. And under foundation, okay, we are looking at foundation as a whole. Then under foundation, we define that there will be clearing of the land, mapping of the land, digging of the land, pouring of blind, and setting of block. That is the work package. Then we now say that there are a series of tasks or activities that needs to be done to achieve clearing of the land. So now, if we are now able to decompose and get those series of tasks, you see that by the time you put, okay, let's say renting of excavators, how much, and other things that you need to put in place as regard to clearing of the land. Each of those estimate for each of those activities, you see that it sum up to form the cost for clearing the land, which is also different from the summation of the cost for mapping the land, which is also different from the summation of the cost for digging the land, which is also different from the summation of the cost for buying the pouring the concrete and everything on the foundation to set block. So you see that all these are different costs, but you see that the estimation start from the base. So with all these different costing for each of these different activities, if you sum them up together, it will now form the cost for a work package. And all the costs for the different work package summed together form the cost of the project activity that needs to be completed. So that is why we call it the bottom-up estimation. So starting your cost estimation from the bottom to the top at arriving at the total cost of the project. Excuse me, sir, among all these cost estimation techniques, is there any one that is most reliable and better? Yes, the bottom-up estimation. Why? Because the bottom-up estimation pay more attention to the details of the activities that needs to be completed. It gives you the opportunity to be able to track and report properly the details of the activities that needs to be completed. All right, so that is the concept behind the bottom-up estimation. So you can see that from the base of the calculation, you can keep calculating and calculating until you get to the amount that you need to arrive at. That is the bottom-up estimation. All right, then among other estimation, there's also what refers to as reserve analysis. Reserve analysis, I will still talk about it, but I would like you to note that reserve analysis in a simple term simply means the amount of money that you need to keep aside to take care of your uncertainty. Note it somewhere. It simply refers to the amount of money that we are going to keep aside to take care of your uncertainty. And we have two types of reserve analysis. We have the contingency reserve and we have the management reserve. The contingency reserve and we have the management reserve. Now, what I remember I mentioned earlier in the class that there is no way you can totally come up with the budget or the cost for your project without having a risk analysis. And you just heard me now mention that reserve analysis is that amount of money you keep aside to take care of uncertainty. That is the amount of money you keep aside to take care of the risk that you have in your project. That is the amount of money. That is what reserve analysis. And we have two types of reserve analysis. And let's just quickly mention them. I've mentioned contingency reserve analysis and management reserve analysis. What is contingency reserve analysis? Simply decode. Contingency reserve analysis is that amount of money that is kept aside by the project manager to take care of known or identified risk. It is that amount of money that is kept aside by who? The project manager to take care of the known or identified risk. And this amount is under the project manager's control and authority. Take note of those terms. This amount is under the project manager's control and authority. That is what the contingency reserve analysis. All right? Open bracket and close. Write it somewhere. Known, unknown. Open bracket and close. Write it somewhere. Known, unknown. All right? You write known, you give space, unknown. We refer to that as what? Contingency reserve. Then we also have the second reserve, which is the management reserve. Is that amount of money that is kept aside by management or the project sponsors to take care of the unknown or unidentified risk kept aside by management or project sponsor to take care or accommodate the unknown or unidentified risk. Please, is that clear? Hello, is that clear, please? All right. So, yeah, so cost of quality, we'll talk about that. Uh, all these other ones, we'll look at them in another aspect. But this is what I needed to know under estimation of cost. All right. Bottom up estimation and reserve analysis. All right. We've talked about analogous and parametric and 3 points. We don't need to mention them again. Okay. Then the next thing I would like us to talk about, which is also very important for the exam, are the kind of cost. It is also very important you know this. What are the kind of costs? For example, what kind of cost estimate should I give to a customer at the beginning stage of a project? What, when we are still discussing the terms and conditions of the project, what kind of cost estimate should I give? Or peradventure we have decided on the high level statement of work, high level scope, high level activities that needs to be done. But now I'm trying to plan for the project. What level of cost should I focus on? Or peradventure that you have all the necessary information to plan for your project, what level of cost should I also focus on? That is why you can see the kind of cost and the level of accuracy and when to use them. All right, please, it is very important. You should know when to use them. This part is what is very important, when to use them. The rough order of magnitude, which is also referred to as what ballpark, all right, is that cost estimation you use when you are still discussing about the project. Please take note. It is technically wrong for you to give an estimation. Let's say, for instance, now you are discussing at the early stage of the project. You have not signed an agreement yet. That is why you can see here pre-sales. You are still finalizing. You are still discussing at that early stage of the project, where you have not signed the project charter, and the customer is asking you, how much do you think you feel it can cost us to complete this project? If you don't have historical records, you don't have an OPA you should go to, or you don't have any friend to call on, the best accuracy level to provide is minus 25% to 75% of the intentional amount. Example, you are discussing with a sponsor and you are looking at a cost of maybe 5 million, for example. All right. Should I, at that early stage, tell the customer that the amount it will take us to complete this project is 4,999,000, 100,000, I mean 99, how will I even say, is it? All right. They are confusing me. That's how our government put their figure. Then you now put 99 kobo. Is that what you should tell the customer? No. In your project, you must put them in this order of accuracy. That is what is expected. So which means it's expected that when you are giving that figure, you already know that you have a rough idea it will take 5 million. But it is safer for you to calculate 25%. You see this minus 25%, which means what is 25% of 5 million? You calculate it, subtract it from 5 million, you write it down. Let's say, for instance, now 25% of 5 million is how much, please? Let me quickly check that. 25%, 5 million, for example, times 25%. That's 1.250 million. So 1.250 million, because you say minus 25%, which means you are going to minus 1.250 million from 5 million. So which means you are having about 3.750 million. So your rough order of magnitude will now be 3.75 million. So then what is 75%? 75% is this 3.75. So 3.75, you can see plus 75%. So that will not be 3.75 plus 5 million will not be what? 8.75 million. Hello, did you get this, please? Hello, Lola, is that clear? It's clear. Hello, Lola, I didn't hear you well. Can you confirm to me? Huh? It's clear. Mr. Iberi, all right. Okay, all right. So I repeat again, the rough order of magnitude, all right, and I said that it is used at the early stage of your project when you are still having that discussion about how much it will take to complete the project. And I now said that, for instance, you have an idea that it will take 5 million to complete the project. All right, for example, I'm saying that according to project management, the PMI standard, you you cannot just tell your customer or your project sponsor that, okay, let's look at 5 million to complete the project. They are saying that you must put it in this accuracy level of minus 25% of the original amount to plus 75% of the original amount. So which means if I already have in mind 5 million, I'm going to come to this accuracy level and say, okay, what is 25% of 5 million? Whatever I have as my answer, which will be 1.250, I will subtract it from 5. Whatever I have will become the first magnitude. Then I will also calculate 75% of 5 million, which will be about 3.75, plus the original amount, which is 8.75. So which means your rough order of magnitude will be stated that yes, it will most likely cost us between 3.7 to 8.7. So which means you are indirectly telling the customer that this is the range of what it may cost us to complete the project. But technically, are you saying that it will be 8 million? No. Technically, are you saying that it will be 3.7 million? No, but it will fall in between. Why do you have to give this rough order of magnitude? So that you can be safe as a project manager. Because it is possible that at the beginning stage where you are factoring that yes, it will take 5 million, you now discover that you now make a call to the market, you want to confirm the amount of material, and the thing has skyrocketed. It can still fall within the rough order of magnitude. I hope that is clear now. All right. So that with that same standard, that is how this also follows. But now, when do we apply this budget estimate? You can see as it is written, early planning process, but with more information. So which means at this stage of budget estimate, it is usually done during project planning. All right, it is usually done during project planning. So which means at that point you are now planning, you are now serious with information. Now you started calling the market, you started calling people to know how much is this, how much is that, what about that material, oh, how much do I pay for your workmanship and all those things. You are now factoring in, you are putting all those plans together. You see that the magnitude, or the range or the accuracy level reduced to -10% to +25%. Right? You see that this amount you will get will still fall within this 3.5 to 8.5. So also the third one, the bottom up estimate. This bottom up or derivative or definitive or deterministic is the same grammar. Why are they mentioning us grammar? At this point, you are very sure of what it will cost you to complete the project. So which means at this point you are already planning, you are using the WBS to do your estimation. You are not just making calls and looking at how much they are selling all the materials now, but you're actually breaking it down according to the WBS to help finalize on the estimation of each of those activities. So whatever your summation will be at that time, when you are now more detailed in your plan, take note. That is why you can see this word, we say the latter, while the second one is the early planning stage. So when you are now more detailed in your plan, then the accuracy level will be between -5% to +10% of your actual amount or the amount you have in mind. Do you get that, please? I hope that is clear. All right. So what do we want to achieve by cost estimation? You can see we want to have an estimation of all the costs. All right. Then also basis of estimates, how you came across or how you came about those calculations. Now, when we have successfully carried out each of those estimates, the next thing that is done is what we refer to as determine budget. What does that simply mean? You can see all this plenty grammar, but the most important thing is this. All right. Now, determine budget. We are simply saying that, yes, you have a question, please go on. Oh, I didn't mention that. No, please take note of it. Open bracket and close. Management reserve is unknown. Thank you. Please, it's very important. All right. Why I have to bring that in? Because I've come across questions where they just make reference to unknown or unknown. You'll now be wondering, what do they mean by unknown? It simply means management reserve. All right. So all those small trick. Yes. No. The project manager does not even know it exists. That is why I said I think I emphasize that by the management or the project sponsor. They are not the one that decide to say, you know what, let's just keep some money aside in case. Some organizations have their policy. We can tell you that, okay, the total sum of this project is 20 million. Okay, let's keep 50% of one money aside, or let's keep 20% of that same amount of the budget aside to take care in case. It now depends on the organization. That is why the project manager does not have control over it. And that is why you discover that if you have done project for the government, you discover that the amount you used to do the project, you collected or you charged them 10 million. But when you now come across it on paper or news, in one of those news, you now yet see it in dailies that that project they completed was 250 point so and so 50 kobo. You'll be wondering, what happened? That was not the amount I used. It's because of the management reserve. Okay, determine budget. So determining budget is more like when you now sum up all the individual activity, the cost of each of those individual activities you have estimated. So summing up of all the estimation is called the determine budget, or getting to know the budget for your project. Do you get it now? What is the technique used? The technique used is called aggregating. All right. So the process of aggregating the estimated cost of individual activity or work package to come up with the cost baseline or the authorized cost for the project is what we mean by determining budget. All right. So at this point of determining budget, you are coming up with the approved upon baseline for your project. So take note of that. That is what we mean by determine budget. So determine budget is to aggregate, sum up all the costs. You can see this grammar. That is the technique. Sum up all the costs of all the estimation you have made for the individual cost for the activities together. It forms your determined budget. And that budget will produce what we refer to as what? Your cost baseline, which will now become the approved cost for the project. And it will become the cost that everybody will use to measure if they are spending wisely or spending wrongly. That is what determine budget. All right. Then under determine budget, what else again do we want to achieve? The project funding requirements. How is the fund going to come about? Is it going to come as, we're going to call it in tranches, after we complete phase by phase? How is the fund going to come in? So all these are what you also look out for when you are determining your budget. What tool do we use for that? You can see I've mentioned cost aggregation is a tool. You can see repetition of reserve analysis again. Then we also have fund limit reconciliation, especially the aspect of expenditure, putting a limit to how much you can spend per week, how much you can spend per month, or how much you can spend per work package. You put funding limit reconciliation. All right. And the essence of putting that limit is so that you can do a quick checkmation, or you checkmate. You checkmate to see if you are spending according to the budget. All right. Please, I want to say something here, and I need you to listen attentively, because it's a summary of all the plenty English and grammar I have been mentioning since. This is the summary. All right. This is more like looking at it from the concept of determining budget. All right. So please, I want you to follow me. Just look at the screen. So you can see that each of those activities has been broken down, and this is the cost for one activity, this is the cost for another activity, this is the cost of another activity. Summed together form the cost for a work package. All right. So also these are costs for different activities. Summed together give you the cost for a work package, and so and so and so, depends on the number of work packages you have for that particular project. Remember, we said work package is for the lowest level in your WBS, and in your work package you can still break it down to get the activities, and those activities is what you now estimate on. So you can see the way you keep gathering and summing up all the cost for each of those activities. All right. So that summation gets to this point. That summation gets to this point, which becomes your project cost. So which means all this summation put together forms your project cost. And remember, I define what a project cost is. I ask you to note it down. all the estimation you have gathered for your project put together becomes your project cost, which is the amount of money that it will take you to complete the project. Hello, please, is that clear? So the project cost automatically what become that amount of money that it will take you to complete the project. Now, you discover at this point where you have the project cost, you look at this corner, they said riskless estimation, which means at this point we have not considered our reserve analysis. And we said that reserve analysis is that amount of money we keep aside to take care of all identified risk. And I told you that there is no way you can totally have a cost budget for your project. There's no way you can have a cost budget for your project without the reserve analysis. So the reserve analysis will be determined when you come up with all the identified risks you think can have impact on your project and figure out the factors or the technique you will use to resolve those impacts, especially monetarily, and that is why you have that figure. All right, so that is why there is even need for you to put money aside to take care of that amount or take care of that risk event. So reserve in this case is now the contingency reserve. You'll be wondering, why do we have to mention contingency reserve? Contingency reserve in this case is because you have identified the risk. You can see this next level for identified risk that you and your team have determined. You kept $600 to take care of that risk. Now, $600 plus $6,000 of your project cost form your cost baseline. So what is your cost baseline? Please take note. Your cost baseline mathematically is equals to project cost plus contingency reserve. Project cost plus contingency reserve. And we said that the cost baseline is now that approved cost of money that the project manager has control over. So you can now see that this is the money that the management will approve and give to the project manager to spend to take care of the project as a whole. But you discover that in this chart, you see that a line cross across this place. This line simply provide the assumption that the project manager is not aware that there is any other cost kept aside. So the project manager is only entitled to the cost baseline, which it will be approved for him to spend. Now, you now see that management reserve now comes in. So management in their wisdom now say, okay, you know what? If the cost the project manager has provided will be this, let's just keep maybe 20%, 30%, whatever percentage to take care of any unidentified risk that may occur that the project manager did not factor. So that when the project manager call back and say, excuse me, sir, this happened, that happened, you will see that without grudge, or they need to make adjustment or change, you see that without grudge, or you know say, sir, the end-SARS protest that took place, this is the damage he had caused, and it will affect us with so amount. You say, okay, no worry, we have already made the reservation. They will release that amount. The reason why it is easy for them to release is because they made reservation for what? Management reserve, to take care of unidentified risk. Now, the cost baseline plus management reserve is what gives birth to what? The cost budget or budget. So you can now say that budget is equals to management reserve plus cost baseline. Management reserve plus cost baseline. I believe this is very, very clear. Yes, is it clear, or any question for me so that I can explain it again? Hello, is it clear? Yes, go on. Is it clear? Any question? No, no, no. Go on first. Lady first. Go on. Come again, please. I can't. Can you speak louder a little, please? Sorry, just let me hear you clearly. I can't hear you clearly. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you now. The cost of the project. No, no. I want you to use the right term so that we'll not confuse ourselves. Come again. No, no. Or is it that we're not getting your question? Ask your question again, please, so that we can understand you properly, please. Hello, Lola. Can you hear me now? Hello, Lola. What about now? We can hear you. We can hear you clearly. Or maybe use your earpiece now. So yeah, use your earpiece. Use your earpiece to hear me. Can you? All right. Okay. Should we hold on for you? Let's hold on for you to come in. Oh yeah. No, just hold on. Let her come in so that we can understand that. Then we attend to your question too, so she can benefit from it. Yes, we can hear you. Go on. No, no, no. Yes. Yes, because you are using the right term now. So, exactly. Exactly. Correct. All right. Then, Godwin, go on your question. No, no, no. I didn't apply. No, hold on, hold on. I didn't apply 10%. All right. I only use that figure to explain contingency reserve. But hold on first. How you will get contingency reserve is when you carry out your risk analysis when we are talking about risk. So, you know, most likely, all right, the management team are part of your change, your CCB, and most likely they are part of the project, getting to know how things are done. And that is why I also mentioned earlier that there are some organizations that they don't release full money for you. They release based on each maybe tranches on phase by phase. When you complete a phase, they release money for the next phase. All right, it depends. Okay, but now to ask is to answer that question straight. Sometimes because they are part of the team, the money goes to them. Do you understand now, sir? All right, because it's not like they are going to create an account and tell you that, oh, this account, use your signature and collect money and be spent. If not, all the project managers for the ball. All right, that is why, yes,
So, what I'm trying to say is that the contingency reserve is not a percentage of the project cost. It comes from the risk analysis. After
exactly,
analyzing the risk, so you can put a contingency. So
yes,
that means you are still going to monetary quantify the contingency reserve.
exactly.
Like
To,
the risk plan you are going to have, the risk you are going to come up with, you are going to literally quantify the impact to the project cost.
exactly. Example, example, example now, all right? During your risk analysis, you are trying to set up a place and you are starting with clearing of the land. All right, that is after you guys have planned. Now you are going to execute. All right, part of your execution is that you now start to clear the land. While you are clearing the land, like in Lagos, or Monile now came around and say, ah, bros, before you chew cutlass for ground, you suppose settle ground now. Where do you see that money from that you will use to settle those youths? Or those youths now came in different fractions. You see, fraction A came, fraction B came, fraction C came. Is it that you are going to carry police to come and stand in your sides? Or, or you settle the youth? So that amount of money you will use to settle the youth is what we are looking at now as your contingency. In case it is possible that you don't have any disturbance. It is possible that you have figured out that, oh, it is possible that these guys will come and disturb us. And maybe it was only one fraction that came and you settled them. So that money you reserve to take care of all those identified risks that you guys have sat down during the risk process or the risk analysis to identify. That is the money we are talking about now. We will talk about how do we calculate that money. We will look at that when we are considering our risk management. Is that clear, please? Any other question? And Wally, any question? Mr. Iberi, hope we have not confused you. Hello, Mr. Iberi, are you there?
Yes, yes, I'm there. It's clear.
Okay, Mr. Wally, what about you? Hello, Wally, are you with us? Mr. Kadiri.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so let's move on. Then, please ask me. This is an ex- this is an yes, this is an example of the bottom-up estimation. You can see from the activities, it started summing up to this, sum up to this, keep summing up all the different parts. You are summing them up, and this technique of summing them up, we call it what? No, this technique aggregation. Thank you. I can go on. All right. Control cost. Now that we have determined the budget and we have arrived at our cost baseline, which is now the approve upon money that we need to spend for the project, which is under the control of the project manager. Control costs. Now, okay, let me ask this question. Yes, Wale, what would now be control cost? Yes, Wale. what will now be a control cost in this case? Or how? Yes. Or how do you now control cost in this case?
So I would say that it's a cost control method or technique that responds to the variances that are encountered in the project. It's looking at it from a standpoint of which are eliminating if eliminating is a activity definition cost estimate, you have to know the actual cost. That's the first control.
Okay. Mr. Kadiri, control cost. So how do we go about controlling cost in this kind of case now? You started executing. So how, when we now say control cost, what do we mean? All right. Okay. So the concept of control cost is also the concept of control schedule. It's also the concept of all the controls. All right. But in this case, of course, you are checking the consumption of project fund to the physical work being accomplished to see if they are in alignment. All right. Clearing of the land, we said that we are going to spend 5,000. Did we actually spend 5,000? You are checking the consumption of the project fund to the physical work being done. You are comparing the two. As work is being done, is being completed, there's progression, you are checking. That is what control costs. So the how is that comparison that takes place whereby you check what has been done as against what you plan to do. But in this case, of course, you check what you have spent money on as against what you plan to spend money on. That becomes what? Your control cost. Is that clear? All right. So, and the essence of control cost is that it provides a means to quickly discover any form of variance that may have been occurring without your notice so that you can take either a corrective action or a preventive action. All right? Please take note of that. So I'll leave all this for your reading. All these are the activities you do when it comes to control costs. All these are the things you should just read for that purpose. Then what do we want to achieve when we are controlling costs? We want to achieve the work performance information that we from the work performance data we have gotten, and we have analyzed it to determine the information. So that is what we want to achieve. That is why we are controlling costs. And also to be able to now forecast for the rest of work that is yet to be completed, and also probably to make some changes as a result of the cost or the expenditure of the project, and update all the necessary documentation. You can use expert judgment and also some data analysis to check the variance by doing that analysis. All right, so that is that. But there's also another part that I will need us to look at, and there's a little small calculation. Maybe in the next 5 minutes, we just look at it. And but the calculation is simple to understand, and you may come across it in your exam, but you may not come across it in your exam. But I need you to focus more on the interpretations, because it is possible that in the exam you are presented with the calculations or they help you to calculate it, and they are not asking you to interpret it. in such a way that they ask you, what will you have to do in this case, or what does this mean as a project manager? Now, in a situation, how do we know, how do we measure if we are actually doing well in terms of costs and in terms of schedule and also in terms of scope? Remember, when we look at the issue of control, it is actually to check your performance against the baseline. And we also mentioned that we have three basic baselines. We said that part of those baselines that we have are the scope baseline, the schedule baseline, and lastly, the cost baseline. And that becomes your mirror to measure all the works that you plan to do. So now, end value management is a technique that is used in project management to measure the performance and progress of our projects. Is that technique used to measure the performance and progress of our projects? All right, it helps us to know if our project is performing well or if our project is not performing well. And we are going to look at this from two perspectives. We're going to look at this from two variables. How do I determine the status of my project to know as at today, is my project performing well? How do I determine the progress report of the entire project as a whole? So we're going to look at this from two perspectives. The first perspective is to look at the status, while the second perspective is to look at it from the progressing report. Now, but there are some basic variables that we must define for us to understand these two perspectives. Because now we need to actually measure the performance of our project. This is the technique that the project manager uses to know if you are performing in terms of cost, in terms of schedule, and in terms of your scope of work. Now, what are the variables? So, EVM, we're going to look at the basic variables. And the basic variables are, as you can see on the screen, please write it down. EV, which means end value. AC, which means actual cost. And PV, which means planned value. So we are going to be mentioning these three variables. And please, if you have any question, just call my attention to it. First and foremost, what is EV? EV in this context simply means the estimated value of work actually completed. The estimated value of work actually completed. That is what EV. End value. What is the actual value of work completed in terms of schedule, in terms of cost? AC, which is actual cost. AC in this context simply means the actual cost incurred for the work accomplished or completed. EV, the estimated value of the work now actually completed. Now, EV is based on the work completed, the value of the work completed. AC is based on the amount of money or costs incurred for the work that has been completed. While PV, which is the planned value, is the estimated value of the work planned to be done, which is also means like the planned cost For instance, now we plan to spend 5,000 for 3 days. PV is 5,000 for 3 days. Day 1, we started work, and we now discover that by day 2, we spent 4,000. So the actual cost now is 4,000. The planned cost is 5,000. The end value, okay, now if we have spent 4,000 by day 2, what is the amount of work we have actually completed? Maybe the percentage of work we have completed is maybe 50%. So which means the actual amount of work we have completed monetarily will be what? 2,500. That will become the end value. But don't worry, all those are plenty grammar. But is this my grammar clear?
Yes, it is.
All right. Mr. Iberi. All right.
Yes, please.
All right. So, plan value, we plan that we're going to spend 5,000 in 3 days. All right. And by the second day, we've already spent 4,000. And we now check. But we're supposed to spend 3 days. So, plan value will be 5,000. Actual cost of what we have spent for in terms of the cost now is 4,000. But now, end value. So that 4,000 we've already spent, what is the value of the work we have accomplished or achieved by that 4,000 we have spent? So you can now evaluate it and say, oh, 20%, 30%, 50%, you now know the monetary amount for it. All right. So all these are the plenty grammar. I will leave it for you. When you go through this plenty grammar, it's easy for you to comprehend. But now, like I told you, we want to look at the end value management under 2 perspectives. The status report, which means at this point, I want to measure the cost performance on the project based on the work that have been completed so far at the moment. So to achieve that status, end value management, we are going to consider your CV and your SV. What is CV? You can see it. CV means what? Cost variance. What is SV? SV means what? Schedule variance. If you look at their meaning, CV, cost variance, and which is the measure of cost performance on the project as at that moment. Schedule variance, the measure of schedule performance on the project as at that moment. You want to know the status of your project today, now, today. Then so far, the aspect you should look at is your end value management status report. And what are the things you are to check out for? Cost variance and schedule variance. And what is the formula for your cost variance? EV minus AC. The value of work completed minus the amount of money spent to complete that value of work. That is that. Cost variance and schedule variance. Under schedule variance, you will see that it is EV minus PV. So to check for status report under cost, it will be what? EV minus actual cost. To check for status report under schedule, it will be EV minus planned variance. Is that clear? All right, let's play with it. Let's play with it. Write this following figure down. Let your EV be equals to 500 and let your AC be equals to 600 and let your PV be equals to 550. 550. So we've said EV is 500, AC is 600, and PV is what, 550. So with that value, calculate CV and calculate SV. Please, 1 minute, please. Are you there, please? So CV now minus 100. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Now, this is what I need you to note. Write somewhere interpretation. Interpretation, please, is very important. This is your focus. Interpretation. When CV is negative, when CV is negative, it simply means you are over budgeted, which is bad. What is over budgeted? Spending more than you planned to spend. Simple explanation. Spending more than you plan to spend. That is what? Over budgeted. Take note of over budgeted. When CV is positive, it simply means you are under budgeted, which is very good. Under budgeted simply means spending under your budget. Chicken up. As simple as that. Don't crack your brain. Spending within or under your budget. When SV is negative, when SV is negative, it simply means you are behind schedule. When SV is negative, it simply means you are what? Behind schedule. You simply know what it means to be behind schedule now. You are not meeting up with your schedule. You are still behind. That one is simple to understand. When SV is positive, it simply means you are ahead of schedule. Hope that is clear. Now, Mr. Iberi, can you interpret the result we have on the screen? What does it mean for us to have a CV of minus 100? And what does it mean for us to have a SV of minus 50? Hello, Mr. Berry, are you there? Looking at the figure we have on the screen now, all right, we said that our CV is minus 100 and our SV is minus 100. Now, what does this mean? If a team member of yours provided you this status report on a project, what is your interpretation? Okay. Yes, go on, please. It's on the screen. It's on the screen. Can you see my screen? When minus 50, minus 50. And what is the term? That you are behind schedule. Okay, okay. Yes, you have a question? Any question or clarification? You have spent more for a lesser work, correct? So if you look at the figure I gave, how much do we plan to spend? No, no, 550. Our plan is to spend 550, but we end up spending 600. So we are overspending. That is why you see your CV being what? Over budgeted. We are spending more than we planned to spend. So looking at the figure, you can easily tell if you are over budgeted or under budgeted, or if you are above schedule, ahead of schedule, or behind schedule. Sure, that is clear. So this is for measuring the performance based on your status report. You want to check what is the status of our project. Can I get a figure? That is what it means. Then let's now look at the other aspect, which is what? The EVM based on progress reports. You want to know how the entire project is faring as a whole. So on the progress report is totally based on what? The entire project. So what are we going to calculate in this case? You can see on the screen, we are calculating what? Your CPI. What is the meaning of CPI? You can see it on the screen. The interpretation is here, cost performance index. So in this case, we are measuring the efficiency of costs as a whole based on the progress we have made so far in the project. So CPI is what? Cost performance index. SPI is what? Schedule performance index. All right. So let's take some figure again. Let's take a different figure. Let's assume E is 700. E is 700. Sorry, EV is 700 and AC is 600 and PV is 650. EV 700, AC 600, then PV 650. You can see the formula EV over AC for cost performance index. While for the schedule performance index, you can see the formula EV over PV. All right, so quickly, what's the answer, please? Are you there? Hello, are you there? One 0.16. Okay. Yes. All right. Yes. Lola, Lola, I heard your voice. Are you saying something different? Okay. All right. So you see that it's very simple. Now, area of focus interpretation. If your CPI is equals to 1, is equals to 1 on the dot, we are progressing as per budget, which means we are at equal par with the budget. If your CPI is greater than 1, that simply shows that we are under budget. And that means you are doing better than the budget, so you are doing well, which is good for the project. If your CPI is lesser than 1, it simply means you are over budgeted, which means you are doing badly compared to your budget. So also in the case of SPI, schedule performance index. If your schedule performance index is equals to 1, which means you are progressing as per the schedule. But if it is greater than 1, that is to say you are now having like 1.1, 1.5, 1 point something. But if you just have 1 or 100, it means you are as you are progressing as per schedule. But when it's now greater than 1, it means you are ahead of schedule. If it is lesser than 1, it simply means you are behind schedule. So with this, Lola, can you interpret our result for us? CPI is equal to 1.16, SPI is equal to 1.03. What is the interpretation? Hello, Lola, are you there? Hello, Lola, are you there? Okay, Mr. Wale, can you help us out, please? Thank you very much. That is all that I need you to know. Excuse me, sir, do I need to memorize? This is the simplest of all the calculation. But take note, there's other formulas or areas that you can just play with. So that is why I prepared this slide for such. So you can see the variables we have looked at: end value, actual cost, and planned value, and their small interpretation. And you look at, we are saying cost variance, schedule variance to this. You can see the formula and their interpretations. All right. Then there's also estimate at completion. That's EAC. You can see the various formula and the conditions where you can use them. All right. But now, for the purpose of exam, yes, it's possible you come across all these, but they are time stealers. But the one that is easy is the one we have just mentioned. All right. What is your cost variance, schedule variance, cost performance index, interpretations? Those ones are simple. Those are the ones that even have interpretations, but others do not have interpretation. All right. Are we good? So it's just for you to know that they exist. Oh, estimate to complete. Just know they exist and the formula. But I don't need you to crack your head about that. So you see it in the exam, If it's not interpretation and it needs you to calculate, you can. But for your mock, you may see it there. So don't say, this guy set it in mock and he said we should not look at it in exam. Yes, I need to set it in mock so that you can just play with it. All right. Is that clear, please?
Yeah. It's okay. It's clear.
All right. I think that's all about cost. I think that's all about cost. So any question for me, please? Any question, please?
So, what is the progression as is the output just management cost? Okay.
No, I didn't get you, sir.
Well, all the working on resource management and output. So we now be correct to ask absolutely how many cost to be very precise about it.
Yes, if I understand your question, we have different project um, management processes when it comes to the cost. All right. But if you look at it as a total package, when we now look at project cost, we're actually focusing on having a budget, which is key, and managing that budget. But if you look at the total plan, you see that it cuts across estimating, getting the budget, and managing the budget. So that is why we have to discuss the EMV as a technique for controlling your costs, so that as much as possible you can easily tell if you are performing in terms of under budget, or if probably you are not expending well in terms of over budget. So I don't know if I understand your question very well, or I've been able to answer your question. So if so if you look at costing, there are three things we are focusing on. Estimate it. So you look at basically thing you want to cost, you have to estimate. We are saying that to estimate, go to the grassroots, to the bottom of the activities in that project and start estimation from there. And now the reason why you are using bottom up estimation from the grassroots is because it makes your estimation more accurate. It makes it more accurate. Yes, Godwin, any question? Go on.
So it seems to me how we are studying now estimations, coefficient, cost. It seems to me that the monitoring and control tend to veer across the project output and but execution line, it seems it will not do execution the cost and the coefficient.
Exactly.
So is it right to say that monitoring and control goes across the project?
Of course, monitoring and control, all the project you will monitor and control. All the project activities you need to do for your project, you must monitor and control. And why it is so is because that is where you physically show your strength in terms of being able to guide and make sure you are taking the necessary actions before it goes out of hands. But if you now decide to be maybe lackadaisical about it, or you just feel that, well, the guys know what to do, it will bounce back to you as being incompetence. And the implication of that is what we refer to as cost of quality. Why? Because your work will be graded as poor quality Not because you are the one that performed the work, but because you were not able to meet the performance-based requirement. And that is why if you look at the triple triangle we drew some time ago, you see cost, schedule, and scope. Why? Because those three aspects of your project, they are performance based to measure you, the project manager. They don't talk about your team, but they refer to you managing or who is in charge of the project. And that may also bring to loss of business because you may not likely get recommendation for other projects. So that is why monitoring of all aspects of your project is your core. Remember, when we talk about executing, you are not performing the task. During executing, remember when we discussed about it, you are only leading. You are leading. You are not the one performing the physical work. But what are you doing? You are leading, providing leadership. And part of the leadership things you do is embedded in monitoring and control because you are going to solve problems. There are going to be issues that will come. Those issues, if you are not monitoring the project, you will not know that there are issues, and it will make your project to experience maybe some little setbacks. And when those setbacks pile up, it becomes headache for you, and that brings pressure. But it becomes easy when you are monitoring the project from the moment you initiate the project till you close the project. Monitoring is constant. I hope I'm clear, please. Yes, Godwin, any other question for me? All right. So that's good. Thank God that you're clear. Mr. Kadiri, I didn't see you send your assignment. And Lola, I didn't see you send your quiz. Right? Yeah. Why is that? I think we talked about it yesterday, Lola. Oh my God. Okay. Okay. All right, no problem. Okay. Um. Okay, no problem. No problem. Um. Okay. Mr. Kadiri, you didn't get to introduce yourself at the beginning of the class, but maybe we'll find time for you to introduce yourself later. All right. Okay. So, yes, Godwin, you're supposed to be. Where are you supposed to be now? Let me check. Supposed to be wetin happen? Why you not read now? All right. Okay, we are supposed to. Okay, but where exactly are you now? Are you on scope or where do you say you are? Mhm. According to now, okay, let's go by what we have learned today. Let's look at this schedule variance. According to your plan variance is that you're supposed to be today being 12, you're supposed to be on schedule. All right. So if we look at your schedule variance, you're supposed to be on schedule, but the end value of your work done, you are still at integration. And if you look at that calculation, you have a subtraction of what? 13th, and integration is on the 3rd. Please, can you do that? That's you have what? 10 days. You are 10 days what? Behind schedule. Can you see the implementation? Yeah. So so we can actually use it for our everyday activities. You can check your schedule. Oh, this is where you're supposed to be. But as at today, this is what you have, the value of things you have achieved. So you do the subtraction. Is that clear, Mr. Wale? Lola, is that clear?
Yes, it's clear.
All right. Mr. Wale, do you think I should check your study plan?
I'm just saying from now to realistic for start breaking things for continuously. Whether you accept me next period, you see that there's no variance.
There's no
Or in
variance.
the current profile of experience.
All right.
Because I'm just entering it this way.
Okay. All right. That's a good feedback. Okay, guys. Thank you for your time. So I will send in the materials and the what now the quiz so that you can just play with them so that you can play with them before maybe I see the hot. Let me send it now so that I see the hot. You can just quickly answer them sharp sharp. And
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you.
all right, guys. Enjoy your week and have a blessed week. Yeah. Hello, Mr. Kadirin.
My lecturer,
Yes,
good
okay.
evening.
Well done, sir.
You know, I broke down, I tell you, during the week.
Oh, so